Hey everybody, so I wanted to talk about a few things today. Haven't made a video in a while. Been busy working and you guys that follow the channel, you know Audrey's husband's been in the nursing home. Well, he finally went home to be with Jesus. So I kind of helped her with the funeral a little bit. And the funeral was Wednesday. And I'm sure at some point we'll turn the camera on over at her house and she'll talk about it a little bit with you guys. We might do a live stream. But anyway, so I figured I'd turn the camera on. A few things on my mind. I've been getting lots of food for the chickens here, the Flat Earth chickens, and it's really great for them. But it's unbelievable the amount of food waste that we have in this society, and compared to people that are going hungry, around the world. There's a few things. I mean, I've kind of got a new source for a lot of this stuff. I have buckets out at restaurants where I get the plate scrapings from the restaurants, and then sometimes they have stuff that goes out of date. I mean, this here is nice homemade bread, farm-to-table bread, and French fries, and there's raviolis in there, and this is all nice farm-to-table stuff. And I get, several 5-gallon buckets a week from the restaurant. And that's really good stuff. This stuff comes from the supermarket. A friend of mine works at I want to tie in a few topics. A friend of mine works at the drop-in center, which is kind of like a homeless place for the homeless people to go and get food. And it's the food shelf. And then they can take showers and do their laundry and stuff. It's a good place. I want to tie a few topics. And the homeless situation for this town in Vermont, which, for Vermont is a pretty big town. But compared to towns across the country, it would be considered a small town, I guess. I think the population's like, I want to say 20,000. I forget offhand how many are there. But there's a lot of homeless people down there. They get so much, and people in Vermont are generous, and for whatever reason, I guess, I'm not sure if it's like this in other places around, but they get so much food for the homeless down there at the food, and for the food shelf for the people who aren't homeless, but they can sign up to go to the food shelf and get food. But they have more food than they can use, and a lot of it goes bast and stuff. And she's just started going over to some of the supermarkets. She has been going to the supermarkets and getting food for the hurting people, but then she's got another one now, Price Chopper, and just getting tons and tons of produce. The dark green leafy greens are really good to make the egg yolks dark, and they get that stuff anyway around here when they're out looking for bugs. They eat grass and all this stuff, but they really like lettuce and kale and collard greens. We've been getting a lot. Just lots of produce. They got a whole bunch of cantaloupes the other day, and watermelons. If I know YouTube, they'll take this picture of these cantaloupe rinds, and that'll be my thumbnail. They won't let me make my own thumbnail on the Android. So instead of having a nice thumbnail like this or of that, you watch. And I like I say, I don't have any control over it. But I've made videos in the past with lots of nice stuff that I get on the camera, and I put it on my garbage dump over there for like 2 seconds, and that's what I'll get as a thumbnail. But anyway, yeah, the homeless problem around here is mostly because they're all addicted to the opioids, and they're getting a lot of heroin overdoses, and now the heroin is getting mixed and cut with that fentanyl, which is the pharmaceutical anesthesia stuff. I think that's what they say killed Michael Jackson or whatever. I'm not sure, but they're even finding that they're putting that fentanyl in weed now. So, but people are ODing down, fairly consistently, and so there's a lot of homeless people because they're drug addicts. And there's some that are mentally disabled and for different reasons, but a large majority of them are heroin addicts and opioid addicts. And it's got to be quite a issue for this small town of Vermont. People, they're panhandling, and they get into fights, and they don't necessarily behave very well. But they get plenty of food, and the place is great. They supply them with clothes if they need it, and a lot of these people get kind of almost an entitlement mentality where that's they really don't have incentive to better themselves or anything. They get their needs met, and so they get to, instead of being thankful to where they get food given to them, they complain because it's not the food that they want. But anyway, that's kind of a side thing. I didn't really want to sidetrack on that, but I'm more talk about just the abundance of food that we waste in this society, and the amount of packaging. All right, so she's been getting me these packaged mashed sweet potatoes and mashed butternut squash and mashed potatoes. All right, and there's a couple, like these little ones are like a single serving, and like those you probably get 2 or 3 servings of mashed potatoes. And they sell for like $5 a thing. But look at the packages that they come in. These are like serious heavy duty plastic. They have these really nice covers. Then the covers are sealed with plastic tape with the labels. I mean, there's far more goes into making the packaging than goes into a couple scoops of potatoes, which are cheap. Probably GMO'd. I try to be careful what I give the chickens, but I mean, this is good chicken food. But I mean, they'll pick these things later, but by the time the day's over, they'll be totally empty. Crows come down and eat it too, but the packaging is incredible. That our society is so used to everything prepackaged, throw it in the garbage. There's just so much. And before I woke up and started seeing things with different eyes, I would be like, well, it's good for the economy. It's the business to make the plastic. But you start thinking about, and I know fossil fuels aren't really fossil fuels. I believe that oil is produced by the earth, but the production of plastics involves a lot of toxins. Putting toxins in the air and the water, and just in general, it's not a good thing. And then you're left with the plastic, and theoretically it'll get recycled, but that process puts toxins in the air. And then you got, I got to deal with all these. It's nice to get the free foods, but this is like maybe 2 weeks worth of cardboard boxes that now I have to deal with. So it's work to get the free food for the chickens. But that's how I make money off the eggs, because if I had to buy grain for every bite of food that they ate, I would never make any money on eggs. But because I get a lot of free food, I can turn a profit on the eggs, and I do it more because I enjoy it. It's a hobby, but I'm making over about $250 a month right now. I'm putting in my pocket after all my expenses, so that's not bad. I'm not going to get rich doing it, but it pays a couple bills. But I put a lot of time into it, and I give eggs away, But it's unbelievable how Americans eat. Instead of going to the produce department and buying some cheap potatoes and going through the relatively easy process of making some mashed potatoes, for a few cents, really 50 cents, you could probably make one of these containers of mashed potatoes, without a big plastic thing, and without cardboard boxes and shipping and all that. Refrigeration. They keep these things in the cooler at the supermarket. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And then they make so many that they end up going to waste and ending up in a dumpster or going to the food shelter, which they don't eat them, and they end up with the chickens eat them. All that plastic, all that production for a few cents worth of potatoes, and we end up feeding the chickens. It's crazy. Absolutely ridiculous. And we take all this food for granted in this society where, I watch YouTube videos of places in India and Bangladesh and stuff where the whole village gets together and they spend the morning making a meal for everybody. And it's really healthy food, and the kids are running around with the adults, and they're all smiling and laughing and singing, and they sit down and they eat together. And you don't see you see like some chickens and some cows running around. And those people have it so good. I mean, they all look healthy. None of them are obese. And they sing and they laugh and they play with the kids. And they all like spend the day getting their meals together. And then you hear like the news and the talking heads. Oh well, we have it. The poor third world societies. And we need to give them our Western way of life and everything. And you look around, you look at our society, and we waste all the food. We spend no time with our families. Everybody's sick and fat and obese, and sending their kids off first thing in the morning to be raised by the government. They don't see them ever. They don't sit down and have a meal together, and the food that they eat is all toxic, pesticide, GMO. But, oh yeah, they've got cell phones, and they have, fancy polyester clothes that they buy. It's completely upside down. And they seem happy, and yet in this country, everybody's on antidepressants, or they're fighting and killing each other, or whatever. I mean, I was drunk and stoned on pot most of my life. Now, whether you're in this society or in the third world Bangladeshi society, the important thing is, do you know Jesus or not? And I think, most of those Bangladeshis and Indian people don't know Jesus. But if you're gonna not know Jesus, I think you're better off being over there than being here. And of course, you got places that are really bad off in Africa where, the villages can't scrape a meal together no matter how hard they try to have a happy little noon meal where the whole village gets together and the kids run around. So, that's really sad that places like that exist and situations like this exist where, I'm dumping food out on the ground for my chickens to eat. But anyway, just stuff running through my mind because of, I'm happy to have all this food for the chickens. The eggs have been really, really nice, and I've been making money off the eggs. But I'm more satisfied making money, my couple $100 a month off the eggs, because it seems like a more in touch way to make money than mowing lawns, which is not bad either. But people have this idea that they need, and not so much my customers necessarily, but some of them, But like you get into suburbia and everybody, it's all about having a green manicured lawn, has to look a certain way, and everybody has to buy the same certain flowers to have in their certain little plantings. And so they have to get fertilizer to dump on a lawn and pesticides to kill the grubs and spend somebody to run a power machine to keep everything mowed once a week. And don't get me wrong, I'm happy that I can make a living doing it. But it's crazy. It's very... Now, if you follow my channel, I lived for 15 years off the grid, and I basically grew and raised all my own food and foraged, and it was great. But basically I grew pot for paying for my expense, to pay what I needed to pay for, and mostly I didn't need to pay for much, so I took the money I made for pot and went down to the Keys and fished in the wintertime. Spent money on fishing and drinking and eating at the sushi bar. And then come back and live in my cabin all summer and grow my pot and mow lawns and raise my pigs and my chickens and my turkeys and go fishing, But now I rent, so I have bills, I have bills to pay like most people always... Most people in this society always have had bills. I never did. I never bought fancy vehicles, so I had a car payment. I've been driving old beat-up vehicles my whole life. And, I don't understand the point of buying fancy vehicles. Need the vehicle to get me to point A to point B. So, It's a crazy world we live in. But the important thing is to know what's coming after this world, you know? This is a fleeting physical existence. It goes by quick, and we're promised eternal life if we have faith in Jesus. So that's what we look forward to. Praise God. So anyway, it's nice seeing you guys. I hope you get something out of this video. The ravens are out there messing with Pat's little pepper starts. As soon as I leave, they'll fly over here and partake in this stuff, I think. The chickens are terrified of them. Those are ravens. Those are bigger than the crows, but the crows come in here more. But yeah, I hope you guys are doing well. I will. You can hear them. This is prime laying time. They're all in there laying eggs. Hear them in the Flat Earth Chicken House. Zora's barking at the ravens. But yeah, the chickens, they see a raven or a crow fly over, they all scatter, and the roosters give them their little warning call. Zora's keeping them at a distance. I told the story one time on one of my videos when I used to raise the turkeys out. I had the mother turkey hens in a pen where they used to hatch their eggs out. And I came back one day and there was a raven in there killing baby turkey chicks. He had found one little hole. I had a ceiling in that pen and everything. I thought it was pretty safe. They found one little hole to get in there. And they were killing turkey babies and breaking eggs. And the mothers were fighting them, but those ravens are tough. Those mother turkeys were getting the worst of it. I finally had to grab the shotgun and do the raven, and I really had no other way to do it. Wasn't happy about it, but I fixed the hole in the pen. The ravens are very cool birds, but I know last year they pulled up a bunch of those pepper starts. I'll turn this camera off. I'll probably go try to shoo them away for Pat. He makes hot sauce and stuff out of his peppers. He planted close to 15,000 pepper plants, I think, are out there. Alright, you guys, getting kind of a long video. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care. God bless. Be well. And I love you very much. Bye now.